I don't know how anybody could be bearish at this point on Bitcoin and crypto. And Michael Saylor is likely to go down as the absolute GOAT Bitcoin investor. MicroStrategy acquired another 7,420 BTC and is now holding 252,220 BTC in total. In fact, from what they've disclosed here, you can see the development of their Bitcoin stack, their Bitcoins that they have been holding since 2023. In December 2023, they held 189,000. In June of 2024, 226, and now 252. They've been constantly buying, averaging in, and increasing their stack, now well over 1% of the entire Bitcoin supply. Saylor even goes further and says that there are credible rumors circulating that one or more major banks in the US will soon be able to custody Bitcoin. And as I say multiple times, the race is on, and the race has been on for a very long time. But the vast majority of people will only understand this once the Bitcoin price is catching up, is crossing 100K, is going to 120, 140, 160, 180. And why am I so confident in this? Well, there's a lot of things. The ETF approvals that happened in January for Bitcoin, in July for Ethereum, BlackRock now being the #1 Bitcoin and eventually Ethereum shill because they have two products in the race. Same for Fidelity, same for a lot of other big fund managers. And BlackRock even goes a step further, saying that Bitcoin could basically solve the $35 trillion Federal Reserve crisis, which would be crazy if Bitcoin would be used to basically combat the debt crisis. And this is going to be, if this is going to happen, and we've seen Donald Trump basically already, teasing that in a side sentence, like, yeah, we might use Bitcoin to offset some of the debt or whatever, or to combat some of the debt. Other governments are catching up to that. If other governments, which we already seen, we talked about Bhutan, we talked about El Salvador, obviously those are very, very small countries, but this is basically the testnet for the mainnet being one of the giant governments. Them saying this, Larry Fink being now the #1 shill for Bitcoin, also saying that he has been wrong about Bitcoin, basically running back $10 trillion assets under management by BlackRock. Larry Fink called Bitcoin an index of money laundering many years ago and now said he was wrong about it, and he now sees Bitcoin as digital gold. Larry Fink is probably one of the most influential people on our entire planet Earth. I think very, very few people appreciate that, and very, very few people acknowledge that, I think is a better word instead of appreciate. But this is just where we're at. BlackRock also now got another approval for their options trading for their IBIT Bitcoin spot ETF. So the SEC approved that as well. BlackRock is entering more and more the arena with more and more products, expanding their product offering. How can you be bearish? Like, there's no way you can be bearish about Bitcoin, crypto. Like, sure, in the short term, anything can happen. We know how it is, right? It's volatile. Like, get used to the volatility. But being bearish as in, we're going to go to 10K, alts are going to go to zero. This is the end. Like, I think already a couple of years ago, we have crossed the line where it would be questionable or in question whether crypto is going to make it, right? And I think now it's all about when. Now it's all about how far are we away. Chris Berniske sharing this chart here. Crypto is now emerging from a textbook early bull reset. Early bull reset. While the path remains volatile, don't get shook, and it's not too late if you're sidelined. Basically, looking into history and how we had these massive pumps after, getting through a brutal bear market, seeing little pumps, and then major retracements, 46%, 55%, as of most recent. And another way to look at crypto is by actually also looking at the efficiency of some of these companies, which is absolutely insane. Looking at Tether's numbers versus BlackRock. I don't think people really understand that. BlackRock has almost 20,000 employees, 10 trillion assets under management, and generated $5.5 billion in profit. I think this is year to date or last year. I don't know which time frame, but they generated $5.5 billion in profit. Tether, 50 employees, 50, 120 billion assets under management. So a lot less, a tenth of, not even 1% of what BlackRock has. $6.2 billion in profit. Those numbers are insane. Those numbers are absolutely insane. Anyways, looking into the interchain, looking at some of the price developments, we can see, number one, we still have the ASI Alliance as the largest Cosmos chain out there. $4 billion market cap, fully diluted, $1.59. Cronos, 8.5 cents. Injective back above $21, which is nice. Atom crawling back up slowly to $5. I think we need to see $10 soon. Like Atom below, like Atom at those levels is insane in my opinion. Also, we're going to be talking about Halo. We're going to be talking about Hydro, which is coming up. There's a lot cooking. I do have some concerns. I will talk about it later. But anyways, Say Network has had a decent run. It's now at 37 cents pretty much. We also will talk a lot about Say because there's some impressive numbers that Say has generated over the past couple weeks. TIA 565, Akash up 10% today, 288. DYDX still below $1, which I think is super cheap. Axelar, Kava, and so on. So overall, the conclusion is that alts have not given away the gains of the pump that we have seen across the board earlier this week and are actually remaining quite stable. Obviously, it's weekend now. Usually on weekends, you see a little bit of kind of obviously slower trade activity, but also markets consolidating a bit. So it's going to be interesting how markets will react tomorrow. If these gains are at least going to remain, and potentially even to continue into the next week. Now, let's talk briefly about Halo. I talked about it in the last video already. Halo is a new product idea to basically expand the product offering for the Cosmos Hub to act more and more as an interchain service provider, in which the Cosmos Hub, which is one independent layer 1 Cosmos blockchain, just like Osmosis, just like Celestia, just like Say, just like all the other chains, but the Cosmos Hub is positioned to provide more services, security being one of them, being a place to launch a product, whether that's a chain using interchain security, whether that's as a rollup, which is what Halo aims to do. In fact, we wrote a full-on summary about Halo on the C2_zone Twitter account, and this is a more compact read. Why are rollups on the hub even needed? Why does it make sense? And what are the challenges for app chains? I think in the last video I just said that running an app chain is expensive, right? But let's expand briefly on that. What does expensive mean? Running an app chain, which means your sovereign layer 1 blockchain, your own customized, optimized for whichever use case you have, whether that's an AI application, a DEX, an NFT marketplace, a lending platform, whatever it is, you need to not only attract, but also sustain your own validator set, meaning teams that are running infrastructure to secure that chain. And you also need to incentivize them, right? Which is why app chains typically have their own tokens. And those tokens are mainly used to secure that chain, aka to stake them, right? And why would anybody stake those tokens if there's no reward for it, right? Which is why you need to inflate the token in order to get people to stake their token, which means there's incentive for delegators. But on the other hand, validators also have a cash flow, right? They're also generating an income basically to at least cover their expenses, right? And having run a validator now for the past 3.5 years, it's very, very hard. I think people really underestimate, number one, how the volatile nature of cryptocurrencies makes it very hard to build up a predictable, sustainable business, to grow the team, to have legal clarity. Because in the end of the day, a lot of these validators, especially of larger sizes, they're basically full-on organizations, right? With HR departments, governance departments, technical departments, marketing and content, BD, right? You have a lot of expenses outside of just like running a server and like renting one from whatever, any cloud provider. The downside of that, however, is that inflation is an easy, quick fix, right? And it leads to sell pressure because most of these validators, in order to pay salaries, in order to cover expenses, they have to sell that in order to sustain, but that hurts, especially projects in the early stages, right? So that's number one, is kind of this economic misalignment, if you want to say it like that. Then you have the infrastructure complexity, meaning some of these core teams, they have to have proper validator relations, right? They're in constant exchange with them. They need to coordinate updates, even on testnet, bug fixing, a lot of these things that are taking up valuable resources and of course a lot of time, right? And third, app chains also lead to fragmentation, which means if you build your own L1, you basically need to deploy new IBC funnels, IBC channels or peers. You have liquidity fragmentation in most cases, right? Because you basically have your own environment where you first need to bring on liquidity. You can't just directly tap into other liquidity because you have your own isolated environment pretty much. So those are all challenges. And the way the Cosmos Hub is fixing that for now is, number one, you could deploy your product idea, your DEX, your DeFi platform, your whatever, on a smart contract platform like Neutron that is already Atom secured, so you don't have to worry about your own validator set. You can just deploy a smart contract and you have immediate access to liquidity, right? And the other option would be to launch your own Atom secured consumer chain, which means you don't have to have your own validators. You can leverage Cosmos Hub validators that are already securing the chain. You just need to get them to secure your chain as well. You need to have some sort of revenue kind of model for Atom validators to secure your chain, and that's it. Now, those are the two product offerings that the hub currently has, and both of them have trade-offs, right? Where Halo now fits in is basically into the middle, where it doesn't compete with either. Halo itself is an Atom secured chain. Halo itself does not plan to have its own token, which means Halo is fully Atom aligned, fully Atom secured, and does not compete with the likes of Neutron or compete with other ICS chains. On the other hand, we have Hydro coming up, which is Liquidity-as-a-Service, basically, protocol-owned Liquidity-as-a-Service, which means that it's a gamified way for applications, decentralized applications in the interchain to compete for Atom liquidity. And this is basically the entire flow of Hydro. Number one, you need to make sure that your Atom is already staked externally. Then you convert your staked Atom to LSM shares. Then you transfer those LSM shares onto Neutron. On Neutron, you then lock your LSM shares to obtain voting power. And with that voting power, there's also a lockup period of minimum 3 months where you can't unlock it, basically, inaccessible during this lockup period. And with the voting power you have, you can then go and vote for your favorite projects that are competing for liquidity. And there are incentives for it. I think it's going to be interesting to see how much in terms of APR that is going to contribute, but you basically get an extra APR. I can honestly also see a scenario in which some of these projects are incentivizing votes by promising airdrops or having point systems around it or whatever, any gamified version on why people should vote for them. I don't know how that would be possible to kind of prohibit, but yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how far projects are willing to go to compete for this liquidity and to incentivize people to lock up their Atom, vote for them. We've seen obviously how on Polkadot that has escalated pretty wildly. But there it was about security, and here it's about liquidity, so it's a little bit different. But anyways, that's definitely interesting to see. And Hydro is launching very, very soon, in like one week, I think. So first we'll have Hydro. Shortly after we'll have Forge, probably also by mid-end October. So that's also like just 3-4 weeks away. And then maybe next up we'll have Halo or some other products or consumer chains launching, hopefully. And to be honest, I also think that this might be the last bullet for the Cosmos Hub and Atom as an asset to still be relevant and to still be considered as a smart investment this bull cycle, right? I don't think that Atom is, if this doesn't work out, that Atom is going to die. I think it's just simply too decentralized, too liquid, too accessible on all these exchanges, has too much volume for it to just die. And there's also a lot of traders that actually don't care at all about politics, drama, product roadmap. They only care about the chart. There's a lot of TA, analysts out there and traders who are only trading Atom based on the chart. So I think this is not going to go away. But obviously having a strong roadmap, products that have, strong demand, I think definitely helps to get the Atom and the Cosmos Hub back on track. Anyways, now let's look into one of the new contenders, one of the new chains that is also a Cosmos SDK blockchain. And that has been making big waves recently, and that is Say Network. Say Network in the past 6 months has massively grown. They launched Say V2, which implements parallel EVM execution. We talked about this for so long here on this channel. This has now attracted a lot of applications and also a lot of liquidity. So number one, you can see here how since June, we have bottomed out here in June in terms of daily active users. And in August, we have crossed 50,000 daily active users, which is a lot, to be honest, for Say Network. And also, in terms of IBC volume, Say in the past 24 hours has been second. In the past 7 days, actually has been first, more than Osmosis. Say has dethroned Osmosis when it comes to IBC volume. In the past 30 days, is just slightly behind Osmosis, which is crazy. Like, that's $250 million in IBC volume in the past month. You can actually go here and you can look into where some of that volume coming from. Compared to Osmosis, Say has a very small amount of IBC connections, which is basically peers. Peers are basically the channels or counterparties that this chain, which is called a zone, has with other IBC networks. And if you want to see where most of these volumes are coming from, you can go here, click on peers, and you'll see that this is mostly coming from Kava and Noble. And what do Kava and Noble both have in common? Well, they have both native stablecoins. Kava has native USDT. Noble has native USDC. After observing that, I also watched 2 videos by one of the best crypto YouTubers you should definitely subscribe to, Dynamo DeFi. Very good guy. Great content, very valuable content. You should definitely subscribe. You should definitely like every single video that he's pushing out. And he's been on the Say DeFi train before anybody, and he made tutorials and content about it, how to use Say Network, how to use the chain, how to use these DeFi applications, and how to also earn yield and even points, right? There's a lot of points farming programs as well. Some of the biggest applications here are DragonSwap, which is a DEX basically, 25 million in TVL. Then you have Jumper Exchange, which also had a decent airdrop I've seen. This is how Jumper looks like. Then you also have Yay Finance, which is the lending platform. And you can see here, roughly $200 million in Tether USDT. I guess that's natively issued on Kava. Kava also being a full-on Cosmos SDK blockchain. Makes it very easy to bridge that over onto Say through IBC, because Say and Kava both implement IBC. Same for USDC, right? And there's 50 million here. This is Noble USDC, I would assume. So yeah, decent yields here, decent farming opportunities in the Say DeFi ecosystem. Now the question is, what does that mean for Osmosis? Is Osmosis now being dethroned? Are they getting overtaken and obsolete by Say? Of course not. I think, this is probably what Cosmos needs, is more competition, especially some of these newer chains, to step up their game, to step up their entire ecosystem, user onboarding funnels, liquidity onboarding funnels, and Say has been doing a great job at that. Osmosis, on the other hand, just yesterday unveiled Polaris as the token portal in the 7-minute keynote that Sunny gave at Breakpoint, Solana Breakpoint in Singapore, which was a massive event. Looked extremely well done, high production standards, absolutely crazy. And he basically gave a full-on review walkthrough about how Polaris works, how it looks like. And even if you don't have the wallet, but you want to trade the asset, like Telegram, Sunny was giving an example here, the Ton coin, if you want to trade Ton, but you don't have a Ton wallet, you can still do it on Polaris. You don't need to open a Ton wallet. Polaris is not live yet. The only thing you can do now is sign up for early access. Polaris is also not going to have its own token, at least as of my understanding. And it's going to be fully Osmo aligned and could make Osmo great again. We'll see. But Osmo, in my opinion, is super undervalued right now. Some of the integrations that Osmosis has also done was with a lot of other kind of projects and ecosystems. We talked about CKBTC with ICP and Omnity Network. There's also another integration with Oraichain about Alloyed Ton. If you're unfamiliar with Alloyed assets are basically one token that is basically backed by a variety of tokens that have different sources that might originate from different chains, right? Like, for example, Alloyed BTC is going to be backed by NOM-BTC, by CKBTC, by WBTC, right? But I think the point of Alloyed assets is to, number one, have diversified risk, or mitigated risk, I should say. And number two, also to be able to be fully aligned with not just one project or one partner or one integration or one asset. Anyways, going through some quick news, we have Cronos announcing a new platform called Cronos Learn together with Revolut. So that's very interesting. Cronos also a full-on Cosmos SDK blockchain that's EVM compatible as well, built on an early version of Ethermint, which was co-developed by the Athmos team back in the day, just for context. But yeah, this is very interesting. Cronos and Revolut launching a Learn platform. Then we have the ASI. Voting is now open to merge Cudos into the ASI, a new member to basically merge the Cudos token also to the ASI. We talked about this also a lot in the past couple of weeks. Then an interesting acquisition by Jupiter, which is a Solana project, who acquired Coinhall. And Coinhall was supposed to launch their own Cosmos Layer 1 blockchain and also give out an airdrop for that. Now those are all scratched. Those plans are all scratched. Coinhall being an aggregator, a DEX aggregator, the leading aggregator, especially in the Cosmos ecosystem, have now been acquired by Jupiter. Does it mean Jupiter now has exposure to Cosmos, or does it mean Coinhall has left Cosmos? We'll see, I guess, how that product evolves and develops. The point being, the Coinhall chain are discontinued, so no more Hall chain. And I guess no more airdrop as well. But we'll see if that is still being considered, if there's still going to be a Hall coin or whole token. Then we have this walkthrough by Adi, who is the lead engineer of IBC at Informal Inc. And he made a long thread about the product development of Comet BFT, which is formerly known as Tenormint BFT, the consensus algorithm that is powering tens of billions of dollars of layer 1 blockchains in the Cosmos ecosystem and beyond, right? Even Oraichain is implementing Comet BFT, Babylon as well. A lot of these new chains that are coming up, Initia as well, they actually have stress tested Tendermint as well, or Comet BFT. Lastly, some NFT and airdrop news. First, Unicorn, there's a new emoji airdrop. You have to keep your eyes peeled for those emoji airdrops if you're active in the Unicorn ecosystem. We talked about it, I think, in April, May or something, before Unicorn went live. So I think a lot of you actually got the airdrop. And if you've been active on Unicorn, then you're likely to get all these airdrops, all these emoji airdrops on Unicorn. Then we also have one of the most highly anticipated upgrades coming to Stargaze very, very soon. Marketplace V2 is in the final steps, I guess, of its testnet and will launch soon. So obviously this can't come soon enough, but I think Stargaze is still the predominant NFT marketplace. I think everyone is aligned that like this is a great product. I think what they just need is like to grow in awareness and to also have more sound economics and to increase their market cap as well, right? Massively. On other news, I also purchased my first Celestine sloth. I think I talked about it for a couple of months, how I really wanted to buy one and never bought one, and now I bought one. I missed out on the mint. I was like 3 AM here or whatever. Yeah, I bought my first slot. I also bought a couple of Mad Scientist NFTs. So I'm ready for NFT season. I also have a lot of After the Filter NFTs, which I minted. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and enjoy your Sunday. I'll see you guys very soon. Until then, stay safe and be good.